the movement's philosophy in relation to vegetarianism and animal rights. The basic philosophy of Chaitanya's movement is summed up by Bhaktivinoda Thakur (1838–1914), father of Prabhupada's guru and one of the premier theologians of the tradition. Give up the shackles of matter slowly. Cultivate your spirit inwards. Be humble in yourself and learn to respect those who work towards spiritual attainments, no matter what their tradition. Do this with your heart, mind, and strength in the company of spiritual people alone, and you will see Krishna in no time. Spiritual cultivation is the main object of life. Do everything which helps it, and abstain from doing anything which thwarts the cultivation of the spirit. Have a strong faith that Krishna, God alone, protects you and none else. Admit him as your only guardian. Do everything which you know that Krishna wishes you to do, and never think that you do a thing independently of the holy wish of Krishna. Do all that you do with humility. Always remember that you are a sojourner in this world, and you must be prepared for your own home. Do your duties and cultivate bhakti as a means to obtain the great end of life, Krishna Priti, love of God. Employ your body, mind, and spirit in the service of the deity. Chant his name always. In all your actions, worship your great Lord. It should be clear from the above that Krishna, famous throughout India as a playful, all-attractive divinity, a dark-hued charmer with a special fondness for cows, is the vision of God in the Chaitanya Vaishnava tradition, and thus the vision adopted by the Hare Krishna movement. It should also be obvious that abundant humility and its concomitant kindness to all living creatures are central to the Vaishnava path of religiosity. These factors weigh heavily, as we shall see, in determining the way Hare Krishna devotees view animals. A modern-day representative of the Chaitanyid Vaishnava tradition elaborates on the divine love preached by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and emphasizes its role in true ahimsa or harmlessness, which is essential in the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. Lord Chaitanya propagated the all-embracing philosophy of divine love, irrespective of caste, creed, and religion. Many spiritual paths follow the principle of ahimsa, which means to abstain from doing harm to others. But better than merely renouncing the negative is to be engaged in the positive act of love, which means to do good to others. All animated beings are interconnected and parts of the potency of one all-pervading supersoul or God. We should realize that our real self is neither our physical body nor subtle body, mind, intelligence, and sense of identity, but eternally existing blissful particle of consciousness. Realization of our common relation to the Supreme Will fosters in us love and affection for each other. Here we see the fundamental Hare Krishna teaching that we are not our bodies but spirit soul, quite apart from the material body. But more, we see the basis for true love, that we are all related spiritual beings with the same universal Father in heaven. The usual understanding of ahimsa is here expressed as a given implying that a believing Vaishnava would never cause intentional harm to any living entity. Interestingly, however, ahimsa is now brought further. A Vaishnava is one who feels love for all living entities and performs positive acts of devotion to help them in any way he or she can. The implications in relation to our subject should be self-evident. The movement's specific perspective on vegetarianism and animal rights is clearly brought out in a conversation between Prabhupada and Roman Catholic Cardinal Jean Danielou. In a recent academic volume on the implications of vegetarianism and religion, this conversation is considered in depth. The two religious leaders are speculating about why Christians typically refuse to extend the commandment against killing two animals. At the point in their conversation, Cardinal Danielou wonders, but why does a loving God create some animals who eat other animals? His answer to his own question is both haunting and poignant. There is a fault in the creation, it seems. Swami Prabhupada quickly dismisses this possibility. It is not a fault, he insists. God is very kind. If you want to eat animals, then He'll give you full facility. God will give you the body of a tiger in your next life so that you can eat flesh very freely. The animal eaters become tigers, wolves, cats, and dogs in their next life. The Swami's point is that if there is a fault in creation, it exists nowhere but in the devourer of animal flesh, and will be reprimanded and redeemed in the working out of karmic necessity. Restless rapacity is the destiny of the meat eater. Prabhupada perspective tells us much about the philosophy of Krishna consciousness in relation to vegetarianism, and even something about the nature of God and the logic of reincarnation as well. First of all, according to Prabhupada, the world behaves according to certain karmic laws. That is, for every action there is an equal and commensurate reaction. We will explore this in greater depth later. For now, let us understand that God, by definition, is perfect and complete, and His creation reflects this same perfection, if in a distorted way. Prabhupada clearly asserts that this faith in God's perfect nature, and he points out that God is inherently kind as well. The logic here is simple. If God is perfect and complete, he needs nothing from anyone else, has no envy, and thus has no need to exploit or to be unkind. Thus, being all good, God desires our happiness, and he is pleased when we perform acts that are for our own ultimate benefit. If, due to a poor fund of knowledge, we desire to eat the flesh of animals, or to engage in any other low-grade sense enjoyment which harms ourselves and others as well, he allows us to do it. In fact, he creates the various species of life, each equipped with a particular sensuous strength. The bear sleeps 6 months at a time. The pigeon has hundreds of sexual encounters each day. to facilitate various forms of sense pleasure. As Prabhupada says, if you want to eat meat, become a tiger. In this way, Prabhupada sees rhyme and reason in creation. The various forms we see around us exist for a reason. More, if we are not at the level of a human pursuing spiritual matters in earnest, we are in effect preparing our next body according to our peculiar desires for sense enjoyment. The goal, Prabhupada informs us, is to learn the true standard of enjoyment, spiritual enjoyment. By engaging in this higher pleasure, he says, our endless repetition of bodily incarnations will end, and we can return to Krishna in the spiritual world.